Okay, we're back with another top shelf video podcast. Figured we'd take a little bit of time out of the day and let the today's shift, they can just run up front, and I figured we could take our lunch break in the back.
Right.
And we were gonna talk about it. Some stuff. Another movie that I feel like is it's another fun one, and I'm actually kind of interested to see where you think this falls, if it falls as a top shelf video or not. Because this one's pretty fun. Yeah, I think they don't make. I hate sounding Gen X and saying they don't make movies like this anymore, but I don't think they do.
No, yeah, not like this. I mean, this I definitely the movies that we've been watching so far, and this one, it definitely it has that 80s vibe. That was just our when we were growing up, we were things were how is it, impressionable teens.
Yeah.
So it's the stereotypical stuff that we're like, yep.
Checks all the boxes, but
all
also,
the blocks, yeah.
Like very rewatchable and very like it's just fun, just all around, and in lots of in a number of ways it's fun. But so yeah, I guess we can kind of jump into it. But we are watching, let's see, 1987's. Summer School, directed by Carl Reiner, who's father of Rob Reiner. It's a, I don't know, in my opinion, it's like a quintessential like 80s simple comedy that I don't think it's rated. It might be rated PG-13.
Yeah, PG-13.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems about right. Even though, like, for PG-13, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's got a tone to it that doesn't really seem PG-13. But in rewatching it, it's like, oh yeah, no, it's totally PG-13. But yeah, it stars Mark Harmon and Kirstie Alley are the two main, the two main actors that we'd see. I guess I kind of forget, like, Mark Harmon, I guess, is kind of known mostly for that one show that's still on TV.
NCIS.
NCIS, yeah, that's the one. I don't really watch that, but I'm familiar with it because it's given him like a pretty long career. So Mark Harmon, Kirstie Alley, from probably mostly known from Cheers, and maybe
Look Who's Talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a couple other names in there. Courtney Thorne Smith, who plays Pam. She's the surfer. And then Gary Riley plays Dave, with his best friend Dean Cameron as Francis. I love Francis, even though he goes. Yeah. It's very offended if you don't call him Chainsaw. And then I think one of the second or the third probably largest name in there, I think maybe more in the genre field or in the genre like realm, is Shawnee Smith, who plays Rhonda. She's the pregnant woman, or the pregnant girl. But yeah, she's been in quite a few things. I think she was in the Saw series. I know she's been in a number of like kind of more horror based.
Yeah. I recognized her right away from Saw.
Yeah. She was in a remake of The Blob, which I don't think you've seen that.
No.
It's from 1988. That's one that we probably will need to watch, because The Blob is awesome. Like, it's kind of a bummer that we didn't watch it when we were younger. Not to derail too much, but I watched The Blob. I don't know. I guess like maybe back when I was still like in my 20s, so it would have been around the time that I started off in the industry. But man, that movie is awesome. Like, if you want to talk about an 80s movie that we really missed out on, which is a real bummer, but probably belongs in a video store discussion, is like the remake of The Blob. It is. I know you and I probably grew up on watching like the original Blob, and then even things like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
This one actually falls more into the Killer Clowns than it does like almost anything else. Because like Killer Clowns is like it's fun and it's got a certain like attitude about it. The Blob is like in a lot of ways a very like simple line 80s movie. It's it's a remake of like the 1950s Blob, but it is ultra like it is an ultra visual effects like groundbreaking movie in so many ways. Like it's kind of shocking to watch it and be like, how the hell did they do that in 1988? But yeah, I we'll have to. I know we're talking about summer school, but it's kind of relevant a little bit in this because of some of the characters in here. So yeah, the
stereotypes.
The Dave and Chainsaw. Yeah. They probably would have been huge fans of the Blob. So yeah, the movie. I guess the movie the movie kicks off with a very classic movie. I guess like cold open where you just kind of get like the music and like everybody school is like, and I kind of remember this. I'm sure you do too. I'd be curious if it's still like this in schools today, but like the last 30 minutes of school is like everybody just kind of like anxiously looking at the clock and like sitting in class. And, you know, you've already checked in all your books. You're already checked out basically. And so everyone's just waiting for the final bell, the formal, like, you know, you are all released for summer sort of feeling. And they do a really good job of encapsulating that feeling, you know, that I think we all had, which is like really just wanting to get out of there. And and literally
nobody gives a shit. They're just turning in the books. I think they they show a quick scene of Pam getting a signature in a yearbook. You know, so it's like, it's all that stuff. Yeah. It's like, we're done. Vacation's already started. This is just a formality.
Yeah.
You know, the dudes in the gym are just kind of bullshitting with the PE coach, which is, you know, Mr. Shoop.
Right. That's
but
right.
everybody's just watching. Actually, I think they show on the scoreboard, they have the countdown.
Oh, that's right.
And everybody's just watching the clock and they're about to head out.
That would have been awesome if we had
actually done that.
Yeah, if we actually had the proper countdown, that would have been awesome. So yeah, it's funny because the movie sort of starts with that sort of, you know, that we're about to get out, and then funny enough, they show one teacher who's got like a strip of like 50 scratch off tickets, and he's trying to scratch the tickets and finally scratches one. He's like, I won. And which is funny enough, that actually is Carl Reiner. Like that's
I was about to say that is the director.
Yeah. And he scratches off the ticket and wins. I think he only wins like 30 grand or something.
It's like it's 50,000
or 50,000, and he's like, "That's it, I quit. Like I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out. I don't know summer school for me. I'm getting the hell out of here."
And so it quickly the beginning of the movie quickly turns into the vice principal, who is effectively the villain, I guess you could say, the character vice principal Gills. Now has to quickly find somebody to teach summer school, which I love that about this movie, that it's just a very quick premise of like, hey, I quit, go find somebody else. And like, you know, it's so cartoony in that sense. I love it.
Quick side note. Isn't it? I guess I found it interesting. I had that epiphany when I was like, man, even in the 80s, teachers were still not paid enough. This son of a bitch was scratching lotto tickets.
Yeah.
In lieu of having to work extra in the summer.
Right, in the summer.
You know what I mean? So like even in the 80s, it was like we were still having this discussion about, you know, teachers don't get enough.
Oh yeah.
To put up with the shit that they do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like it's kind of funny. I think there's one other point where I kind of thought something like that as well too. But yeah, there's definitely kind of like anything to get out of summer school. The students don't want to do it. The teachers don't want to do it. Like nobody wants to do it. And
they just show the security guard just handing out slips to the, you know, what ends up being the characters in this whole movie. You know, they're slowly getting their slips of like, you know, you need to go talk to so and so, or you know, they're getting their notice. That
it's almost like a prison notice, or like you've been fired notice, like the way they
you've been summoned.
Which is really funny because I don't think that's how it would have been done. I'm sure you would have known way ahead of time.
Way before the last 10 minutes of your school year. No,
Yeah,
you know if you're going.
You're getting
I know from experience. Yeah, you know way ahead of time.
You get your walk-in papers like the last 10 minutes of school. So it starts off with that happening. The teacher that was supposed to teach quits because he hit the jackpot of $50K, and then Vice Principal Gills is able to stop Freddie Shoop or Mr. Shoop who's about to just head out to Hawaii with his girlfriend, and is able to corner him and tell him that, hey, which is also kind of funny, but it's like, hey, if you want your tenure, which you're up for next year, you got to teach summer school. Which I find it interesting that they were going to like give tenure to a PE teacher. Like,
he was like, I don't teach anything. I do PE.
Yeah, I do PE, but yet I'm up for tenure. So it's like, man, that is kind of a cush job in some ways. Like maybe not pays enough, but at least guaranteed if you're tenured, like they can't fire you.
Yeah.
But I think obviously written for the movie, I'm sure they were like, how could we do this? And it's like, I don't know, just say they have tenure. And it's like, okay, I guess.
Just some way to give the vice principal leverage. Like, he's basically blackmailing him.
Yeah, absolutely. So he is quickly cornered and has to teach summer school. He's having to teach, I believe it's remedial English is what it was.
Yeah, because they failed some kind of, I guess it would be like the STARS test today.
Or some sort of statewide test of some kind. So then from there, Mr. Shoop is now having to, formulate what his plan's going to be. You're introduced to basically the cast of characters, which we'll see throughout the movie, which includes, I don't remember everybody's name, but I know like Pam is the surfer. Larry is the stripper. He's like the 18-year-old
he sleeps all day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin is the football player.
That's right.
There's always a jock.
Right. Then there was Rhonda,
Rhonda was
pregnant.
she was the pregnant one. So, her school schedule was all kinds of screwed up. You got the classic nerd, Alan.
Yeah. Ekian.
Ekian.
His last name is...
and he's got the same, got the like the nerdy voice, and they casted him just right. I mean, he was perfect. And then Denise, I guess she failed because it turns out she's dyslexic.
Yeah. Which is interesting when that kind of gets brought up in the movie. We'll bring that up.
It like took like a serious turn real quick, and it was just like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, that was an interesting kind of point. I guess we'll circle back on that point. But so we're introduced to all the characters, or that's the majority of the characters.
Oh, and the exchange student who's just there for.
Oh, that's right.
I don't remember why.
Because she wants to brush up on her English.
Oh, that's That's what it was.
And
that's
so they're
right.
like,
she's not. She doesn't have to be there. Right. She just wants to be there.
She just wants to be there. And,
that's right.
And of course, she's like the Italian,
the hot international,
extremely
exchange
hot,
student.
Not 18, like exchange student.
But
she. I want to say she.
Right, do you know? Did you see the Austin Powers show movies?
I did.
She's a lot of vagina.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yep.
Yeah, that's her.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. Okay. I need to plug in this thing. I forgot my backup.
Oh damn.
No, it's fine. We'll just keep recording. This will be easy to cut out.
Yeah, we can just jump back in.
Find this plug. I just realized that it's like flashing the battery low, even though I think mostly just because it is a backup. Oh, there it is. Let's make sure this guy is plugged.
You haven't had to use the backups yet, have you? I mean, I think
no,
the original audios have been really good, I think.
No, the audio's been really good. It's just a little bit of that paranoia, right? Just to make sure that in case this will be the one time that I need it. And then it's like, oh, of course, it didn't finish recording.
Right.
Okay. Just plug that in. It should just keep going before the batteries give out. Okay. Okay, I think it stopped recording, but that's fine. Or it didn't stop recording, it's just because I plugged it into power, I think it restarted, which is fine. It's should still be easy enough in case I do need it.
Okay.
So let's see, we'll pick up. Oh, we were talking about a lot of vagina, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah. I forgot, or not that I forgot. I didn't realize that was her until you just sort of said that now. But because she definitely looked familiar, but obviously didn't look familiar when we watched this originally. It was really more so.
Well, yeah.
In retrospect, it was like, oh wait,
that infamous role was years later.
Yeah,
yeah. But did you happen to notice the music? The music was pre-Batman Danny Elfman.
Yeah, I did notice that. I was actually
I saw that in the credits. I'm like, oh yeah, this is. I mean, I was a fan, of Danny Elfman, and especially like I think like Batman kind of made him
right
a more household name.
Yeah, because he was a part of Oingo Boingo,
right?
And like I mean, we listened to them, but I don't think we would have known the name Danny Elfman of them.
Yeah. I know the name of the band, but like the individual folks, was not something I followed. But once there was just something, I don't know. I think because of the soundtrack.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there was like Prince was in it and all that stuff. But I remember like Danny Elfman was a thing that stuck out.
Right.
And then when I saw it again on the credits to this, I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because when the movie starts, I mean, I guess going back to the beginning of the movie, but like because it's sort of this montage of like events that are all happening spread out, like you can tell that opening song is very like Danny Elfman, like Oingo Boingo. Like it's very like it uses like what's that instrument? That one that you use in Tohono music,
the accordion?
The accordion. Like it's using accordion, it's using kind of kooky instruments, and it's got a very poppy 80s kind of feel to it, and it's perfect for the beginning of the movie.
It all blends perfectly.
It sets the tone like very early on that this is going to be more very lighthearted, and even though like obviously it's a comedy, but it's not like that. Like, and I guess this kind of goes back to they don't make them like this anymore in that like there's no like extreme fart jokes or extreme like whatever. It's just it's funny because the actors are funny, and then the music when it starts, like literally from I think the Warner Brothers like or the Paramount or whatever the opening logo is, like you immediately hear the accordion kind of just start the movie, and it's already got this zaniness to it that you once you hear that voice and you're like, oh yeah, that's like Danny Elfman. And I think he gives it like a really nice, just fun, bouncy kind of feel to the overall movie. Like it's
playing like school summer's about to start, and it's just they show at the beach. It kind of there's a beach scene, of course, with the gratuitous girls in bikinis walking down the shore.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything was perfect.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, it's a good call out because I had a note for that, and I was thinking the same thing too. I was like, oh man, Danny Elfman, like, and yeah, so the movie starts and we meet all the characters. They're all like basically brought into the classroom with Mr. Shoop, and clearly Mr. Shoop doesn't want to be there, and he even expresses to the students, and they're like, we don't want to be here either. And so you get a very early sense of like, well, where's this all going? Because he's like, well,
we don't want to be here.
It's remedial English, and I don't know anything about English, so it quickly just turns to like, well, what do we do? And I guess it turns more into like, well, if we're gonna be stuck here together, let's just start our summer here. So everyone's very like loungy and just kind of doing whatever. And it doesn't take long for them to be like, hey, why don't we why don't we just get out of here, like out of the classroom, and change up our scenery, and let's go to the library or whatever.
Field trip.
Yeah, and then quickly, and it's kind of funny because I think what this encapsulates really well is the they from library, they're like, hey, why don't we take field trips? And it's like, well, like field trips doing what? It's like doing whatever. And so that quickly turns into field trips to the petting zoo, field trips to, I guess, whatever their equivalent to Six Flags is. I guess whatever.
Yeah, there's go-kart racing.
Go-kart racing.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of funny because I love how I remember watching this because I guess I would have been about 12 or somewhere around there.
Yeah.
12-ish, I guess, when this movie came out. And just being like, man, that's like when in particular, the scene where he's like, all right, here are some release slips or slips
permission slips for your parents.
Yeah, for your parents to sign. And like everybody just falsifies it, and signs them right there and gives them right back. And I was like, man, I remember when we had to do that. And that's kind of crazy to think like that, like a very important document, which is basically an agreement that if anything happens to your kid, we're not liable, and we had to give that to our parents. Yeah. Whereas like, it seems like nowadays that would not really be the case. Like it was so lackadaisical.
Yeah.
I mean,
yep. I was guilty of forging signatures. So yeah, mom and dad, if you're listening, my bad.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is, right? Because I feel like that's part of, like, everybody had their tricks, like in school. Like, I mean, I had mine, but which maybe we'll get to if there's a movie that I can like slide that in. But I was more stealthy than maybe you were. But yeah, it's just kind of funny to watch that sequence, right? Where it's like, he's like, well, I guess we need permission slips. And I think it's like Dave or
Chainsaw has him in his bag. He's like, oh, I got him right here.
He's like, oh, I got you covered. Yeah, and it's great. He's awesome. It's like he's got
like a whole stack of them.
Yeah, he's got a variety of forms that you would need. But yeah, so that's awesome. And then the movie kind of goes into it's kind of funny because the movie is a series of mini montages where they show them out having fun at the go-kart.
Oh yeah,
at
the petting zoo,
the roller coasters. Like it's like, here are all the things we get to do for our summer because we're just kind of messing around. And then I think it's after the petting zoo they get busted because the nerd Ikian, he has like hay fever, or he ends up with like allergies.
He's allergic to goat hair.
That's right. It's very specific. Like
so the mom comes busting into the assistant principal's office like, what the hell's going on at the school?
Yeah, they're taking field trips.
He came home with goat hair everywhere and was sneezing and
yeah. Is that your form of summer education? Is like trips to the amusement park and all this other stuff? Oh, they go. I remember specifically they go to the beach because they have to go to the beach. I think because Dave and Chainsaw are like, we have to go to the beach for our next like.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We got to get Anna Maria in a bikini. The exchange student.
That sequence is pretty funny, just because of the whole like. It's kind of funny because I guess as a young person I never really thought about it because I don't know what the French Riviera was, and that the fact that it's like a topless. Beach, right?
Yeah, we had no clue, man. We were in South Texas.
We
had South Padre Island.
We're down in the dirty south of like the dirty Gulf water of the Gulf of Mexico. But yeah, so it's funny I never got that joke until we got older because I didn't understand. It's like, why is she taking her top off? Like, and I guess when I was younger, I just assumed it's like, oh, I guess just if you're foreign, that's just something you do if you're not from America. But then learning like, oh, the French Riviera, and like, I guess it's like a topless.
It's not as taboo over there.
Yeah, exactly. But it is just kind of funny the way that sequence kind of plays out, where they almost get her to take off her top. So yeah, then,
such high school shit.
Yeah, it was very, very high schooly. And I really like that. And I love how each character is very well defined, like Chainsaw and Dave are like, clearly one character, but like the tropes are really like tropey, but in a way that is like I was saying earlier, like it's not like the jock was like mean or like a bully. He was actually nice and ends up like kind of having a crush on the pregnant girl, and like the nerd is very nerdy, and then like the hot guy, well, turns out later, we find out what he's the stripper, but he's like the hot guy of the school, right? And he's very like, I don't know what he does, but he's cool, and he dresses really well, and
because he's making money.
He's making money, somehow. And then you realize, he's actually a stripper at night. And so after being busted by Ikian's grandma, oh, that's right, it's the grandma on top of that. It's not even the mom. The grandma busts Ikian. Basically, Vice Principal Gills now threatens, he threatens Shoop with his job, saying like, basically you're fired because like we could have been sued, or anything could have happened to these kids. Yeah. And they could have cost
Which is all legit. It's a legit thing, but he's being a douche about it.
Yeah. I do love that. I do love that scene where there is a scene when they're kind of going back and forth there, where he's telling them like, yeah, basically you're fired. And he's like, dude, you can't fire me. Like, I'm up for tenure. And then he's like, okay, I'll tell you what. He's like, if you can actually teach these kids to pass that exam that they have to take at the end of summer, I will not fire you and we'll grant you tenure. But if you don't, you're fired. So basically he's blackmailed him with it. Not only has he blackmailed him into doing summer school with his tenure, now he's like actually has him on the hook for his actual job. And Vice Principal Gills is constantly like, these kids are all degenerates and they're a bunch of thugs. They're all not thugs. I guess he treats them as if they're just like throwaway students.
Yeah, just throwaway idiots. Yeah.
So in that conversation they're having back and forth, he's like, he's telling him, I think he's like, hey, well, you can't give up on these kids. And he's like, well, then you teach them. And I think Shoop is kind of like, these kids actually, these kids actually have a lot of, they got a lot of gusto or something. Like he says something, they got a lot to offer. He's like, they could maybe even teach something to you and me. And he's like, it's you and I. And he's like, all of us. Like, and I was just like, okay, that was a really well written line. But I loved the subtle comedy of how this is written, and I think the way that Carl Reiner like directed it, it's just so like, I don't know, even as a young person, like I got all those jokes, like, because that's like an English joke, like I would imagine an English teacher like making a joke like that. It just really worked, I really liked a lot of the exchanges in throughout the movie. And so, I guess at our midpoint of the movie, basically now Shoop has to take things seriously, but like he doesn't know how to teach because he's a PE teacher. So he leans on Kirstie Alley, Kirstie Alley's character. I forget her name.
Yeah, she's teaching like the
overachievers.
Like the APs, the overachievers that come to summer school voluntarily,
right?
The honors students basically.
They want to get.
So she's got the other end of the spectrum, like right next door.
Yeah, which is kind of hilarious because like it's always like, oh yeah, I remember those students. Like, but in any case, so he asks her for help in saying like, hey, could you teach me how to teach these kids? And in order to get the kids to want to learn, and I love this premise. Again, it's something that I guess even if you were to do this nowadays or try to remake this movie, it would totally never fly. But it's kind of not the point. It's just really more the fun of it. But he bribes all the students with like, what would it take for you to learn? Like, what can I give you in return? And that's
crazy to think now that we're adults, because it's like you're supposed to want to learn. I mean, like, why do you got to be incentivized to want pass to the learn. Test that you need to pass?
Yeah. Well, it is funny. It is funny though. I will say, like, having taught myself, like there's something somewhat charming about the movie in that. I like that he tries to make things relatable. Even though like you wouldn't do it through bribery, not like that, but you would do it through other means, right? I would imagine But I do like that makes that is like the meat of our movie is like I will learn if I do this favor for you. And so quickly he goes around the room and like the jock is like, I could use like a tackling dummy, or I could use a football partner to help me.
Yeah, to help me get back on the team.
Yeah. Denise wants help learning how to drive.
Learning how to drive, yeah. Rhonda needs a Lamaze coach.
That's right. She needs a coach. Larry wants a bed.
Harry. Yeah, the stripper needs a bed so he can sleep.
Wants a bed. Yeah. Let's see.
Pam keeps hers a secret, but that was kind of that later. One comes up later.
Yeah,
which was that was kind of awkward.
That was
as adults now, I guess, because I mean back then I'd be like, hell yeah, I'd let her stay at my place, but
that is
now seeing it as an adult, I'm like, that is
jail.
That's straight to jail. That's jail. Yeah. And then Chainsaw and Dave just want what? They want a party.
They want a party in Anna Maria's name, or in her honor.
In her honor, yeah. And then they want a screening of Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the school. Also in her honor.
Right. Which, man, I like, it's funny because right at that point in the movie, and I feel like us growing up down in South Texas, not having as much exposure to movies, because this movie is clearly made in California. And so these two, Dave and Chainsaw, are like hardcore horror nerds. They would probably be like my best friends if that opportunity was there. But I never was really that like as hardcore as them, because it always felt like as a young person, you're trying to develop the type of person you want to be. And nobody was really into that kind of stuff back home. And I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to be just that guy that had no friends, because it was like, well, what the hell? Like, you're into really weird stuff, even though it did interest me. But I just, you don't want to be like, it's the classic growing up thing, right? Which is like, I don't want to listen to my parents' music. I got to listen to my music, even though secretly you may like it. You just don't want to admit it, And I feel like when I saw Dave and Chainsaw in this movie, it's like, man, those guys would be my best friends. And I think even through all these years, having watching it again recently, like, I feel like I've made those friends now, because I'm like, when I was an adult, I'm like, hey, I found Dave and Chainsaw in my latter years of life.
They'd be in your tribe as an adult, but like in our high school years, especially being from South Texas, there was no like there was a chess club, and then there was shit like that, but there was no club for like horror.
Yeah.
There's clubs for everything these days, right?
Yeah.
But like back then, I think the darkest thing we had was like the guys that wore black and listened to Nine Inch Nails.
Right.
And so that falls more like a goth. And these two knuckleheads were more in the like the horror, like the Fangoria genre or whatever, what I mean? And we didn't have that in our neck of the woods growing up. So
we
I can understand why you kind of like, because you'd be a one-man club,
right? Exactly.
At school.
And I'd already be like as much of a as like a weird kid as it already was. But yeah, it's funny just because they talk about like people like Rick Baker and all these other like special effects people like Tom Savini, which is funny because like if the internet or if access to those sorts of magazines were more readily available, because I know like we'd maybe get Fangoria like one a year if we could ever find it at the grocery store or wherever
Walden Books
even be willing to put it out, because of the satanic panic, so many things were pulled off our shelves that we didn't have access to.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's probably I didn't even correlate that they probably associated that shit, because a lot of times those covers were like of a demon or something like a devilish because of the special effects, Mm-hmm. So yeah, I didn't even think about that. They'd pull that shit with all the D&D stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like that's where like I saw these characters and I saw what they were kind of into, but I could never completely relate, right? Because I couldn't find the same materials that they had or that they were talking about. But yeah. So anyway, they are going to show Texas Chainsaw Massacre in class, which is amazing and awesome. And so then our movie kind of kicks into the second act of like, okay, we're willing to learn if you're willing to do your portion. And then our probably like our third montage of the movie, because you have a montage right at the start with like the just getting about to leave school. Then you have another montage of them enjoying just dicking off and not doing anything in class. Yeah. And now we're seeing another montage of the variety of things that Mr. Shoop will do in order for them to learn, right? Which is like being a tackling dummy, which is hilarious, and teaching Denise how to drive. And they have the big party, which basically, I guess what they're trying to build up is like, as a teacher, and as like you were saying just a minute ago, like it seems like they would want to learn, but he's going out of his way to incentivize them to learn. That it's taken a toll on Mr. Shoop, because like he's literally like giving up all his free time and all his resources, including his body, to get them to pay attention, which I think is admirable. But at the same time, looking at it in a different lens of just like, why the fuck would you do that? Like you don't even get paid nearly enough to do any of that shit. But yeah, I think it's fun because obviously it's a big filler of the movie, and this all leads up to they have the party, which leads to a bit of a falling out. I guess that's reaching the tipping point of
the tipping point. Yeah. Because the couch gets set on fire.
Yeah, and they put it out with his tank of goldfish.
Oh, the goldfish,
or the single goldfish. There's like one goldfish in a giant tank, and they murder him by putting out the fire. But then they end up. I think they end up doing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre screening, which just seeing that whole sequence, I was like, man, that is like a dream. If I could ever like find like a 16 millimeter print of the Texas Chainsaw, and then B, show it in the classroom.
Yeah,
like
it wasn't a VHS.
It's 16 millimeter, which is awesome. And then that actually kind of leads to the point that you were talking about earlier, where like everything's been a lot of fun, and then there's like this slight twist where there's a little bit of like, not like it's still comedy, but then it kind of turns like a more serious tone where Denise is asking Ikian if he'll help her with her paper, and then you realize, that she is dyslexic, which I guess nowadays it's like probably more common than actually I think you realize, but back then, and the way they frame it, they make it seem like it's a very serious matter that needs to be dealt with. And I actually like kind of how the movie sort of handles that, like it empathize. It makes, I guess it kind of shows how Shoop actually empathizes with the situation, right? Like he actually cares about her instead of just like, hey, I need you to pass this test,
Yeah. And I think it kind of shows, the vice principal, Gills, he just assumes that all of them just don't give a shit. They don't, they don't, he doesn't take into account, like, we all have personal issues, and it's just, all he knows is that they're students and they fail the test and they're worthless. But then you start to find out, well, obviously one of them's pregnant. So, clearly it was unplanned, and she's, having to deal with that whole thing. And then you have Denise, who turns out she's dyslexic, which it totally explains why she's failing everything.
Right.
But nobody gives a shit because mind you, she was keeping it a secret.
Right.
In the beginning when when they're in the class, she's reading something and he's like, okay, just hand me the paper and I'll do whatever. And she's like, oh, no, something happened to it or whatever, So
right.
it didn't catch it at first, but then when she wants Ikian to look over her stuff, and then he discovers the dyslexia and he brings it to Shoop's attention, then you start to find out that these students have personal
real problems,
real world problems, that it's not just it's not just
it's not them being like I guess like just trouble, like like it's like, oh, kids just cause trouble, and that's why these kids are in summer school. And even Pam's issue, it's like
but when her wish comes up later about needing a place to stay, but then when she gives the background where she's living with I think her brother or sister-in-law, but then they've got kids. There's one on the way. Like she's
she literally has no place like to sleep. Like she's got to sleep on the couch.
She's sleeping on a couch. So she doesn't really have a home.
Yeah,
and so like I guess that's why she's always daydreaming about just being on the beach and going surfing. She'd rather not be at home.
Right.
And so yeah, it just they start to kind of I guess take the skins off the onion. I guess you start to see like some real personal stories behind why they're there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does kind of start to get like a little real, after some of the laugh kind of dies down,
Yeah, and I like how though the movie keeps it like surface level enough and doesn't go like, "Whoa, let's really analyze what's happening." Like it's not, and also they don't just brush it aside as if like, "Oh, it's not that big of a deal." Like it's a really nice blend of like how they're able to put that into the story and keep things moving without it feeling super, super weird, right? Because the whole situation with Pam is weird because she does need a place to stay, but she clearly has a crush on Shoop, and she even talks about it or brings it up at the party that they're at earlier, and that's like super awkward. Like it's like, oh man, that is weird. It is funny though, because I guess we also don't know how old Shoop is, because at one point, I guess when Pam is talking about, like, I guess they're talking about, Shoop is talking about his girlfriend, and he's like, oh, like he's talking, saying like, oh, well, my girlfriend's in Hawaii, and he's like, oh, is that like not a thing anymore? And he's like, no, it's just that she's over there. And she's like, well, like she tries to insinuate like I'm here. And he's like, my girlfriend's 21. And I was like, wait, how old is Shoop? Like, if his girlfriend's only older. 21, like, does that mean he's supposed to be like 24, 25?
I think 25-ish.
Because he doesn't look it in the movie. Like, he looks like he's like 30. So I'm like, wait, you're dating like a 21-year-old at like maybe 30? I mean, I don't know. I shouldn't say anything because, right, I'm 7 years older than my wife. But that's different. In any case.
Well, yeah.
In any case, like, it's awkward because then she's like, well, if your girlfriend's 21, I'm only 16, and that's not that much of a difference. And I'm like, oh, that's really weird. Like you would just be in jail. Like, that sequence was a little, it did not stand the test of time. Like, I guess we could say,
no, not at all.
And yeah, so I think I think right at that point, it really is the breaking point for Shoop, because then like the next day, like everybody, like, the students they have now become, complacent because they want to be incentivized again to learn more, because there's more stuff they need to learn or they have to prep to get ready to take this test. And they're like, whoa,
that's right.
Whoa.
Yeah. They got a pretest coming up.
Yeah. They're like, nah, we didn't agree on no pretest. We only agreed on learning. And so if we're going to do pretest, then you're going to have to hand over something else to us. And then Shoop breaks at that point, where he's just like, look, I've given up my entire summer, and you assholes like want more stuff.
Fuck it, I'm going to Hawaii.
Yeah. He's like, you know what? I quit. And he actually does quit, I guess.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Cause Gills comes in to take over.
Yeah. Which leads
briefly,
up to
very briefly,
my another one of my favorite scenes of the entire movie. So,
oh yeah.
At that point. Yeah. So Shoop quits. I guess the students are kind of like, oh shit. Like I think that's the moment where the students come to the realization of like, you know what, maybe we should take on some self-responsibility, because we actually do need to take this test. We do need to pass. And we are kind of being jerks about the whole thing to begin with. And so they want Shoop back, but the principal is like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So, or vice principal.
Yeah, because he wants him gone anyway.
Yeah, Gills comes to class with a substitute. I mean, I love this scene so much.
It's the best.
It's scene. The substitute teacher comes in with Gills, and they lead her to the classroom, and they walk in. Or no, before they walk.
Denise comes running out.
She comes running out, and she's covered in blood, and she's like, "Oh my god, they've gone crazy," or something along those lines, that they've gone mad or whatever. And she's like, what's going on, Denise? What happened? And then like I love how the substitute teacher is like, is that your blood? And she's like, no. Uh, and so they walk into the classroom, and it's just a montage of like, I think, what is it, like Larry's eyes like popped out of his
Larry has
face,
a pencil through his eyeball
that's been pulled out of his eye.
Yeah,
and
Eakin has a circular saw blade in his head.
I think Rhonda is pulling her tongue out or something, or she's got like a
no, she's got the ruler.
That's right. She has a ruler.
She's got the ruler like stuffed in her mouth.
Very
Very
precursor to Saw, by the way.
Oh yeah,
she would eventually be in Saw with the headpiece thing.
Yeah. Who's the other one? Anna Maria, the exchange student, is hanging by the door. She's like, she's all pale.
Yeah.
And they did her makeup up, perfect.
Oh, it's the jock. I forget his name. He's the one with the tongue.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the hand comes crawling and pulls the tongue out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And then it culminates with Chainsaw and Dave coming out from the back of the room with the chainsaws and like, oh, you said we're crazy and some shit.
They're covered in blood and they're wearing like white doctor
butcher.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
like the butcher whites. Yeah, the butcher whites. Yeah. And so it just leads to them freaking out the substitute teacher enough to be like, I'm not teaching this class. And, but I have to say the makeup effects in that sequence are really, really good. And I looked really quick. I forget his name, but the guy who did the special effects or the visual effects for this, has done like quite a few other like big time movies. So this must have been like pretty early in his career. But it also says that Rick Baker is also uncredited, but may have been involved with like some of the special effects. Huh. So I'm like, that's not surprising because it looks really, really good. So yeah, I would not be surprised if they either showed this to Rick Baker or maybe somebody on the set who was on the effects team or whatever actually were big fans and asked if he wouldn't mind helping for just this one sequence, because that's the only, obviously this is a comedy, so there aren't really any special effects, but this one sequence is like, it's so good. I love it so much.
If you're going to run off a substitute teacher, that is the fucking way to do it.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
And again, it's kind of funny because like would that actually fly nowadays? Absolutely not. Like, it's really unfortunate that like, it's more of a prank than anything else, but like in today's like climate, that would not go down well.
No,
like,
not at all.
That would be a totally different story if that was the case. But so it gets Gills to agree that if they can get Shoop to come back and teach, that he will let him back. And so they go and meet up with Shoop and his dog Wonder Mutt, which
they're chilling on the beach.
I almost named our dog Wonder Mutt, I have to admit. We ended up going with Hank or Henry Indiana because I wanted to name the dog Indiana. But I thought about calling him Wonder Mutt, but I didn't know how well that was going to kind of go. And I love Wonder Mutt. He's great. Him and Bob, the little the toy.
The chew toy, yeah,
the chew toy. But yeah, so they go to the beach and Shoop is there with Wonder Mutt, and all the students come still in their makeup special effects, which is also awesome to kind of see. And they convince him to come back and teach them or prep them for this test without any, no deal, no deal in the sense of like he doesn't need to do anything else. Like they actually want to be taught. And they actually want to try to succeed. And then so we get another montage of just learning.
Everybody's studying. Yeah.
Everybody's studying and getting ready for the big test, which leads up to them taking the test, which is really funny because I never thought you could do a montage with people taking an exam, but they do it at the end of the music kind of kicks in and it just kind of cuts to them taking the test. And I was like, wow, really? We're going to get a montage of test taking, even though they're just kind of filling in bubbles. but again, there's something about that end sequence, or just the essence of how they are able to pull that off, that like it's kind of has that feeling of when we did have to take those exams with a scantron, whatever, of like kind of anxiety, but also like anxiousness or excitement to kind of get through it because you've spent all this time preparing for it. Like it actually kind of works like really well.
I don't see. I don't know, and I don't know. I mean, how if they still take tests that way anymore? But I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that's like online, I suppose. But
sure.
Yeah. I remember those moments of anxiety with those damn Scantron test cards or test sheets, whatever the hell, and it had to be a number 2 pencil, and you had, oh my god, and like at the end where Dave's just like C, like time's running out, and then that was like the thing. It was like everybody. It's like even to this day, you still remember. Okay, when we just C is, and I don't know who came up with the statistics where they're like statistically C is the answer, like so and so percent of the time. So he's just like C all the way.
I mean, it's like what
I was like,
it's a 25% chance. It's 25% chance, right? If you know, or I think they always said it's like 38 for whatever reason, because tests tend to skew towards like it all seemed like a bunch of made up shit. I was like, why would it be C? But whatever. So yeah, that the way it leads up to the end is kind of funny, of just oh, and I guess like one of the big jokes, which actually really pays off in a really funny way, which is like in the very beginning of the movie, I forgot to mention, as we're getting introduced to all the characters, there's like the one big giant black dude,
giant,
that's like a football player or something, and he's like, I didn't fail that exam. And then he's like, well, the school says you did.
Oh, yeah, Jerome.
Yeah, Jerome. He's like, the school says you did. He's like, the school's wrong. And he goes to the bathroom in the first like opening sequence.
Yeah, the first time they're taking roll.
Yeah.
And in the first day of summer school.
Yeah, and then you'd never see him again because he has to use the bathroom. And then he shows up at the very end and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, like, we're taking the exam today. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm here to take the exam. And then he's like, oh. He
gives him back the bathroom pass.
Yeah.
And he's like, you were in the bathroom for 6 weeks?
Yeah, and I love that because like when they show the montage of everybody like stressing, like he's done after like 15 minutes and they just show him sitting there like just waiting for like the exam to be over. And so yeah, the movie kind of ends with the students kind of gather together at the end, and they're kind of just reminiscing, I guess now that the summer is technically over, probably. And they're talking to Rhonda, and Rhonda's giving birth to her baby, and she talks about how she's going to give up the baby to adoption, which again, kind of like a serious like subject, but at the same time, like handled in a way that was actually like it's done in a way that didn't make it feel too awkward. Like it was like, oh yeah.
I mean, she acknowledged, she's like, I'm too young to be a mother.
Yeah.
And it was handled very well for, especially looking back now. I mean, we were still young then, but even then we were like, I mean, if you're not a mom, you put it up for adoption.
Yeah. And it just kind of like the movie just sort of ends with, oh yeah, like Shoop shows up and he's like, I'm fired, or I'm going to be fired because like, you guys didn't pass your exams. And then I guess on the last day on the day when Gills is going to basically have Shoop fired, and the principal is back.
Because the principal's back from wherever he was.
Yeah, for the summer, because he went on summer break. Basically, they bring in all the parents, because all the parents are like, the parents want to talk to the principal and vice principal because they feel like there's been real teaching done. And I think actually, again, like, even though it's a comedy, like they do a really good job of like teacher appreciation of like, hey, this teacher went out of their way to really teach our kids like what they needed to learn, because I guess life skills, as well as like, teaching them remedial English. But it's kind of like, I like that ending. It's like, it's a nice little wrap up, because they end up saying, like, yes, like everybody failed technically by a number score, but their improvement from the original score to where they were now is
Yeah.
actual like growth, which
Yeah.
as a teacher and having taught myself, it's like that's really all you want is just some sort of momentum within students, right? To be able, because hopefully they can take it from there and then start like wanting to learn more and start like asking
Yeah.
questions and engaging. And
Yeah. I mean, some of them did pass.
yeah, a few of them did. I guess like
Yeah.
Pam passed.
Pam passed. Dave passed, which pissed off Chainsaw.
That's
He's
right.
like, "You passed, you asshole!" And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'll take it again. I can fail it. I promise."
Yeah, Ekian passes like
Ekian passes.
barely, but passes.
And then when they're talking, they're like, "Yeah," and the guy was never in class, got a 91 somehow.
Yeah.
Like Jerome got a 91.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, that's right. Because they were like Pam got like an 80, like an 89, and they're like, "Whoa, is that the highest score?" It's like, well, no, the guy who spent like 6 weeks in the bathroom like got 91.
Yeah, got a 91.
Yeah, and again that joke, like just like little subtle jokes like that, they really like pay off in this movie because that sort of comedy is very subtle. It's very Carl Reiner, Rob Reiner type of comedy. Like it's very well planned sort of comedy. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that basically like I mean that's pretty much the bulk of the movie there. I think it's a lot of fun in a lot of ways, but I mean it's funny because like I said, it resonates with me. I guess just because it feels very rewatchable music and everything. But I never went to summer school, like so I have no experience with summer school. I don't know if you resonate or if this movie resonates any differently with you. I guess my question, if I would have asked when we were younger, is like, did you watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre in summer school when you were in summer school?
No, not at all. I unfortunately I went all 4 years in high school, and it was for the wrong reasons. I mean, I was just too busy. Once I got to that age where I was I started chasing girls and paid less attention in class, and wasn't doing the homework kind of thing. So yeah, so every year from 9th to 12th, I had to go to summer school, which looking back, I mean, I laugh about it now, but yeah, I mean, because then I'd go to summer school and I'd get like a 99 for the semester or whatever, because it was crap that it was easy.
Right.
But I just wasn't doing it when I was supposed to be doing it,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't remember any Texas Chainsaw Massacre screenings.
Bummer.
But yeah, there was the typical, actually the one stereotype that wasn't in the class was a cheerleader. There wasn't a cheerleader.
Yeah, you're right.
Because we had a jock, we had the social, I guess, the misfits,
Right.
the special effects guys, so and I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe being that it was an Oceanside high school, maybe
Sure.
the surfer girl was meant to be the cheerleader type. Maybe.
Yeah, you know what? That probably makes sense. That could make for a substitute, or yeah, because Rhonda did not seem like a cheerleader. She just seemed like a normal, like kind of like to have fun with her friends, high school student. Just a regular high school.
Yeah,
student.
just had a bun in the oven is what kind of threw off her her school stuff. But yeah, no. I mean, that's why I remember watching it. And I was like, yeah. I mean, we pretty much had every stereotype in high school. I mean, I had plenty of cheerleaders and the jocks, and of course, I was a band nerd, but I was also thinking I was I don't know, Don Juan or whatever, and I was always trying to date somebody different, and so my priorities weren't quite there in the right place. And then we had the social, I guess, outcast folks, the ones that wore all black and had either wearing like the Cure shirts or
Right.
9 Inch Nails or whatever the case may be. But yeah, no, I mean, I think I mean we didn't have any field trips that I can recall. Everything pretty much stayed in the classroom. So
I feel like whenever we
but,
did take field trips back home, it was always to like the zoo or the occasional like. I think we actually did go to the beach a couple times, but it was more for actual aquatic science because there was I remember there was like a facility on the beach that was like there for animals. I think like turtles and other like sea life and things like that there. But that's the only reason I took aquatic science in high school, because I was like, I was like, they have aquatic science. They're like, yeah, and I looked up in the curriculum and said that we get to go to the beach at some point. I was like, oh, I'm signing up for aquatic science.
Oh,
like,
well, son of a bitch. No,
yeah, I may not have gone to summer school, but I did just enough that I didn't have to, just barely. So it wasn't. I was not really too interested in school at the time. But I will say, what I did like about this movie was, if there were teachers like Mr. Shoop, maybe not bribing us to do stuff, but like actually making a point to be relatable to the students, instead of just being like, I'm the teacher and you're the student. That's just the way it is. Like, and I will say, I had a few teachers. I probably have to thank my English teacher, like, for what I do nowadays, because he was the one that helped me sort of, I guess, like, it was funny because he was hired on at the school, I think, to be like the yearbook newspaper, like, sort of specialist,
like the journalism,
yeah, and stuff like that. But since journalism's not a full-time curriculum class, he was teaching that, but he also had to teach English. So I think he had like one English class, and I was in it. Like, I just happened to be in it, and he was like, I want to say he was like from Chicago or something. So when people like that far up north come this far down south to Texas, like, he was younger-ish. He wasn't that old, but I just remember him because he was the one that allowed me to, he would actually get me out of other classes if I wanted to, because he was trying to learn how to use these computers at school that were given to the school for the journalism class. They couldn't seem to get anybody to figure it out. And I was just sitting around one time in class, and I was just messing around with it. And he kind of was like, whoa, how did you do that? And I was like, I don't know. I just started messing around with this, and I did a little bit of this, and I went to this, and I found this, and I opened that. And he's like, whoa. He's like, you did all that by yourself? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's right, because it was an Apple computer. I had not used an Apple computer at that point. But I was messing around with it because it had some interesting programs on it that I was just fascinated by. So I started noodling around stuff and started figuring out things. And he's like, when is your homeroom class? And like, when is your other class for whatever? And I was like, oh, during this and during whatever. He's like, I'll write an excuse for you to get out of that class if you come here and help me try to figure out how to set up some of this stuff. And I was like, yeah, I mean, if you'll do it. And he did it. So then I was like, all right. And I just kind of learned how to sort of network computers together. Like, I don't know. I don't know how, but I just kind of like figured them out. Like, granted, it was a local network. Like, I was able to get all the computers in the classroom to talk to each other. Right, but I wasn't like, this is like 1993 or something, right? So like, the internet was there, but it wasn't really like I didn't know all the protocols of everything and how to get outside of the school and all that stuff, even though I did figure out a lot of things because the school was very naive about their security system in terms of like how to get into the system, but which I was able to figure out. But yeah, so he got me out of that class, and then I remember him and I talking. He's like, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And I was like, you're like one of the first people to really ask me that, and I don't know. Like, I have no idea. I guess I'm just going to be like a pharmacist or whatever. I'll do whatever that makes money and makes a lot of money, I guess. And he's like, you're kind of good with this computer stuff. You should you should look at stuff like, like design and layout and computer. Like, back then it was really like digital publishing, because it was just starting to kind of take off. But much like Shoop, he was very relatable. Like, he took the time to ask me really what I thought, and he was very cool about it, and he was like a former sports writer, and he just had a very interesting background and very interesting story. And he kind of relayed that to me in a way that I was like, I never really thought about that. And so I ended up not going off to a bigger university and stayed home local, because I started looking into some of the classes that he had suggested, like digital imaging, which is effectively Photoshop, and a bunch of other programs and things and whatnot. And I was like, this is cool. Like, this is the stuff I want I would be interested in. And then when I found out about actual 3D stuff, then that's when I was like, you know what? I actually want to go to an art institute because I want to learn how to do that. Because that's really
Yeah.
like, that was my way of getting into wanting to make
It-
movies and film and stuff. But
Yeah.
I like
You
how
get
this
exposure from you get exposure to that stuff by kind of going off of what he was suggesting.
right,
Just being in the computer realm,
right.
it opened up another door, and now you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
And
damn, dude, I didn't know all that backstory.
well, and I like that partly because like I think that's why this movie like resonates with me because there's not enough movies about teachers that are good teachers, right? That are actually like care, and actually care enough to ask questions, or want to stimulate, your brain to those sorts of things. And obviously this is a comedy or whatever. And because I like, what is it? I think it's the football guy, the dad at the end of the movie where he's like, Mr. Shoop taught my son about like that there's more to life than just football. I don't know if I agree with that, but he's like, but he taught him that.
And then their headbutting at the end and shit.
Yeah. And then he even says something about Chainsaw and Dave about, he says something about like, the parents say anything anyways, but I guess like the whole point is like, they're just reflecting on how a teacher was able to bring another aspect of their children out. And I don't know, maybe that's why it's a very likable movie because there is a hero at the end and it's a real hero, which should be teachers and they should get paid more and all these things or whatever. But, yeah, man, this movie brought back a lot of memories. Like I said, it had me thinking of my old English teacher, who I would love to catch up with him at some point if I could ever, track him down. Cause I know he was teaching at Texas State Technical College for a while there back home. And then I think he moved away. I don't think he lives down south anymore. But I would love to catch up with him at some point and just kind of let him know, that he pushed me in a direction that like now I'm doing what I'm doing and I enjoy it. And now we're making podcasts talking about him and movies. It's a full circle all the way around. So,
yep, that's crazy.
So
that's an awesome story, dude. I didn't know that whole background. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, no, I it's always the little things, right? That push you in one direction or another.
Yep.
And can completely change your life.
Yeah.
So I guess it just begs the question: is this a top shelf video movie? What do you think? It's a tricky one, I think, because
it's tricky because I mean it has all the right. It's got all the markings for top shelf because it's like you said, it's got the happy ending. It's funny. It's definitely
good.
The music's good. It definitely it has that 80s feel. Like it's I don't know. Everything just plays right. I mean for what top shelf video is supposed to be, where we're like, hey, this is something you're going to enjoy. This is something you're going to, it's what, like an hour and a half long. I mean, it's nothing that's going to take your whole, night. But, I hadn't given it too much thought. I think because I did spend some time afterwards kind of just, thinking about it. I was like, oh yeah, I remember when I watched it, like, oh, well, obviously she was hot and, but now that you kind of like you kind of take the whole thing in, and you understand more as an adult. I mean, I think I can see this on the. I'm going to say it can go on the top shelf until it gets kicked off.
I'm right there with you because like I was thinking the same thing too when I was watching it, and I was just like, man, I really do love this movie more than I actually like.
Than I realized.
Like I could watch this. Like if I was ever like, how, I guess like when you're feeling down and some people are like, oh, I'm going to get like a little tub of ice cream and I'll eat some ice cream, sort of like to make yourself feel better. I feel like I would put in this movie. Like I would be like, oh, I want to watch something that's just fun and entertaining and always has got a little bit for everybody. Like I guess I never really fully thought through, but it's like Summer School has all those things. And I think for me, I think a lot about like Dave and Chainsaw, and I always look for their little gifs and memes and stuff. because I think about them. But then, like you were saying, when I think about it as a whole movie, it actually is like much better than I actually realized. And I feel like this is actually something that I would want to watch, like as a, like a, I'd watch it if I'm feeling down or whatever, and I want to get like, kind of cheered up with some comedy. But even like a pre-movie before like a horror or an action, like this is like a kind of like 6:00 on a Saturday night, because it'll be done by like 7:30, and you're waiting for some friends to still show up, or you're waiting for your buddy to get off work or whatever, and so you kind of started, and like you're waiting for the pizza, or you're kind of waiting for the takeout or whatever to kind of show up, and like if you come in part way to the movie, you're still fine with it, because you're like, oh, have they shown the part where like Dave and Chainsaw come in, with all the effects? It's like, no, not yet. And it's like, okay, cool, like you got time, and I feel like it's like you can come in at any point, and it would be a lot of fun. So yeah, I kind of agree with you. Like it needs to be a top shelf video until something kind of replaces it that has the same sort of vibe to it. But yeah, it's kind of funny. I had not really thought it through until when I finished watching it, and I was like, oh man, it's a lot more fun than I realized.
Yeah, I think it definitely encapsulates what we want top shelf videos to be.
Yeah.
It's got all the good things of like what we remember of our years growing up.
Yeah.
And it definitely, it kind of reminds us what high school, mind you, this came out right before we started getting into high school, because this would have been the summer before I started my freshman year.
Right.
So it was like watching this, it was like, oh, this is what I have to look forward to.
Yeah. And it's exciting.
Little did I know I was going to be fucking going to summer school.
Right.
that time, that time, the same year, the next year, but, I think it definitely is, top shelf video-esque.
Yeah.
So
I would agree. I from an inventory standpoint, it's kind of funny because I feel like I'd have more than plenty of these on DVD. I don't know if it really needs to be on any other format. Because like it's, I don't know, it's just like a movie that like if we were only VHS, then I would have a copy of it on VHS. But, I think mostly just because I wouldn't want to maximize the amount of people that could watch this. Like a DVD player should be, or a DVD should be more than plenty, whether you have a player or an Xbox or something that can just read a disc, like a DVD disc, and you don't have like, oh, I don't have a Blu-ray player or whatever. Like, I'm almost like, nah, it doesn't even matter. Like just grab a DVD. The movie holds up on its own without it needing to be like a nice, 4K version with all this or that or whatever,
Yeah.
I mean, I would buy it if they had it, but, which they might have, but I've got it on VHS and DVD. So I feel like that should be more than plenty is a DVD. But I was thinking beyond our inventory, there's some stuff I was thinking about. 'Cause like, I feel like this movie just like, I think the poster, which is basically like, I think the cover is just Shoop.
It's just Shoop and Wondermutt, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're both wearing the
lays.
Yeah, the Hawaiian lays.
Yeah, and he's got a Hawaiian shirt on.
I like that poster because it feels very like video store poster. So I think I would want this poster up, but it's really the merchandising that I feel like I would want because do you remember like in the 90s they used to have those hats that were kind of like beach hats where they were kind of like they were short, like the top part of it, I guess the part that goes over your head was more like almost like a cake shape, like it was very like a barrel,
Oh.
And then like the lid, and
then
was,
it had the visor.
Yeah, the visor was a little bit longer than normal, and it was kind of made for the beach, and usually like Budweiser and Bud
I was gonna
Light.
say Budweiser and Jack Daniels. I had a black
That's
one
right.
with the Jack Daniels.
Yep.
Even though looking back, I'm like, why did mom and dad let me wear that?
I think
we were not old enough to drink.
Jack Daniels.
But I remember that was my favorite hat.
Yeah,
that was
I
like
remember.
my cap. I think there's pictures of me at
In Seattle.
marching band practice wearing the Jack Daniels one.
Man, that would never fly today. Like,
oh fuck no!
You're not wearing a beer or an alcohol sponsored hat, like at high school band practice. But yeah, what I was going to say is like that style of hat, I would love to see it in that sort of style, but like licensed to summer school. I think it would be actually kind of like fun, you know? So I think like Frisbees, like that say summer school on them, and it's like summer school, like, you know, now on video or whatever. I would want some of those in the store. But the thing that I would really want, this would have to be a specialty item, is I really would want like a cardboard standee where people could stand in the middle, and it would be like Dave and Chainsaw on either side with like Anne Marie and like a lot of some of the other like the cast, like kind of in their characters,
like all the students.
Yeah, kind of like peeking over, and you're in the middle, and it says like you're something along the lines of like, this year you're going to summer school or whatever, right? And like you're taking a picture as you're part of going to summer school or whatever.
Like you're in the class.
Like you're in the class. Yeah.
So we'd have like a corner with like photo, like seasonal photo op stuff.
Right,
so
right,
like in the summer months we would have, or maybe not just the summer months, but like in the summer it would be perfect to like have a corner for like photos, and then we could change that whole photo, seasonally, and so like that one, that'd be cool. Have one with like all the students,
Yeah. And I think like, I don't know if I would want, but I would, but I don't know how well it would go over, but I would want them all in their makeup, from that particular sequence, but that might misrepresent what the movie actually is. Cause it's like, well, it's not a horror movie. It's more of a comedy, but, I would like something like that in our store. I think it would actually be pretty cool. I don't know. Do you have?
I wouldn't mind. I was gonna say I wouldn't mind. Maybe get some the chew toy, the Bob chew toy, something like that Bob. for animals.
Yeah,
a couple Bob,
kind of worn down.
for pets.
Right. Yeah.
You could.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that would be.
And just have it summer school licensed, and it would just be the Bob.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's kind of funny because I would love. And maybe this would be more of a, again, I guess we have to figure out the budget, right? But if we can build out a back patio area to our store, I would love to show this outdoors, like in the back of our store, have people, if they want to come or whatever, and we can pull up food trucks or whatever, but we would show summer school, but I think we would follow up with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like, as a double feature,
Oh, a double feature for sure.
Yeah, and then maybe see if we can get the actual actors that played Dave and Chainsaw to come out and host it. That would be kind of fun. But yeah, those are some of the things that I was thinking about. I really like the Bob idea. I hadn't even thought about that. You can have like a basket of Bobs that you can sell.
Yep.
Well, cool. Is there any last little things you want to add to, I don't know, whether about the movie itself or anything you would want to see we could get into the store for this one?
No, I think we covered most of the movie. I think, he gets the girl at the end. I don't think we touched on that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The teacher, Kirstie Alley's character. Is actually has right when the summer school session is starting, she had just started dating the vice principal.
That's right.
So every sporadically throughout the movie, Shoop is kind of like does a little flirting, and she kind of does a little flirting back, but he's not her type, and blah blah blah. And then at the end, once because Gil's kind of shooting his foot from time to time, and shows his true colors by being the dick that he is towards Shoop, and then Shoop ultimately wins her over. So at the end, they're just walking down the beach, and they just start kissing, and the movie ends like that, and the dog's all in their face, and it's just a happy ending. Gets the girl and all that. So no, but other than that, I think we touched on on the the essential stuff. I mean, this is Dave and Chainsaw definitely kind of. I think they steal the show as those crazy ass students.
Yep. I so much wanted to be Dave or Chainsaw, like.
And it's like I think we were closet chainsaws.
Yeah.
Because again we knew we were into that kind of stuff, but we never mind you, our friends we had a small circle of friends because it was different times, right? Not
Right.
everything's connected with social media, but we knew that we were into that kind of genre. But as far as special effects and stuff,
Yeah.
I guess maybe because they're California coast or whatever. Maybe they were more exposed to it in this fictional world.
Yeah, I was always afraid of scaring off friends that would be like, "Oh, you're just into weird shit," and like,
Yeah.
it would scare people off, right? Or it'd make girls like feel like, "Oh, it's gross," it's like boy stuff or whatever. Like at that age, you're still trying to like really develop yourself, and you're kind of worried to isolate yourself. It's such the very like. You need to find a tribe and find a tribe quickly so that you don't get left out as a loner or whatever. And, and
I think because that type of genre was so obscure, I guess back then, I think that's why we leaned more into our band nerd personas than like being movie freaks.
Right.
Because that was not a common thing, but I mean, hell, they were all, they were at least 300 band nerds that you knew that tribe was established.
Right.
So we could just fall in it. And then within that group of band nerds, we were, you and me and Mario, we were all drummers.
Right.
So we were like another subclass of band nerds. So that kept us cool with some of the other kids in the school. We never got shit from the jocks or whatever, because we were drummers.
Right.
So we were like the cool band nerds, So I mean, shit, I just rolled with that.
I was secretly so into movies, but I just never found anybody, too many people at school to really connect with that. So like, that's what I would do. And then, like we had mentioned, I can't remember when we talked about it, but we had both ended up being like projectionists, instead of working at a movie store or as clerks at a movie store, which is like the next best thing. Cause now I get to be around movies all the time. And
we got the screen stuff.
You get to watch movies. And like, so that was like my secret. It's like my Batman identity of like being a cinephile, but not letting too many people know about it, until pretty much, when I was done with school. But
yeah.
Well, yeah, man, that was fun talking about. I'm happy that summer school brought out so much, like sort of, brought back a lot. It seems like for both of us, in what we remember.
Yeah, good memories. I didn't, like you said, I just honestly did not realize how much I enjoyed this movie when we were younger.
Yeah.
Until I watched it again, I'm like, I really do like this movie.
Yep.
I remember when you first brought it up, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it didn't hit until I watched it, and then I was like, oh, now I remember. It was just a fun movie.
Yep. Well, cool, man. I'm gonna go ahead then and put in an order, probably for quite a few of these, and let's see if we can push some of it. We'll start pushing some of those today as people come in and let them know we have a new addition to the Top Shelf videos. So, I guess we should get back out on the floor. I think lunch hour is pretty much done for us. So,
yeah. We'll take over I'll take over at the register.
Okay. Yeah. I gotta organize some stuff in the back, but, all right, man. Well then, let's get back out on the floor, and then, I guess we'll chat, at the end of the shift.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, man. I'll see you.
All right. Later.